You're running your business, you're managing people or clients or collaborators, and somewhere along the way you realize no one actually taught me how to do this part. The strategy, we've read all the books, the marketing, we figured it out, at least for this phase of algorithms. We'll have to relearn the next one. But the leadership piece, actually guiding people along the way, holding them accountable, keeping everyone aligned, that part can feel like you're making it up as you go along. And I think for the most part, all of us are. But when things are moving fast or shifting around you, that gap becomes really obvious really fast.
And most entrepreneurs become leaders by default, not necessarily by design. And without a framework to work from, leadership starts to feel reactive. You're putting out all the fires instead of building something intentional. And when leadership is reactive, everything feels harder. Communication breaks down, accountability slips, and people stop trusting the direction. Today, we're giving you a 5-part leadership framework called the 5 C's: common purpose, clear expectations, communication and alignment, coaching and collaboration, and consequences and results. We're breaking down what each one means, why it matters, and what it actually looks like in a small business or a creative entrepreneurship context. And if this is already the kind of conversation you want more of, we have a free gift for you. It's called the 20-minute clarity map. It's a quick, practical planning tool to set your priorities and the soft skills to make them happen. You'll learn how to pick 3 goals that will make the biggest impact. You can pair each goal with a soft skill to boost follow through. Define simple, realistic actions you can actually complete today. Stay consistent without burning out. And that link is going to be in the show notes, so go sign up and we'll see you in the inbox. You can now follow us on LinkedIn at Entrepreneur Encounter.
So we're walking through all 5 C's today. And to reiterate, that's common purpose, clear expectations, communication and alignment, coaching and collaboration, consequences and results. 5 elements in one framework. So the first C, common purpose, I want to start here because this is the one that gets skipped the most, especially in small businesses and early stage entrepreneurship, because when it's just you probably don't have a small team, or when you start getting a small team, for the most part, it feels like everyone already knows what they're doing, why they're doing it, and assumption isn't always alignment. So a few things to point out here and that are life lessons from us that we've learned through a lot of trial and error is common purpose is the why everyone shares. So it's not just your mission statement on a website. It's the answer to the question, why does this work matter? And what are we collectively as a team, no matter the size, trying to create? When people are connected to that answer, they make better decisions independently. Without it, people start to optimize for the wrong things, or confusion starts to set in. When there's no one shared purpose, individuals default to their own interpretation of what matters. That's when you start seeing misaligned priorities. When you get an email, you're like, why would they do this? Those conflicting decisions and energy going in too many different directions. Next would be purpose is what holds a team together during any type of change. This ties directly back to everything we've talked about in this series so far. When you're pivoting, when things are uncertain, when the plan is shifting, shared purpose is the anchor. So we understand why it's shifting. We also understand where we're shifting to. This is what lets people adapt without losing that thread of shared purpose. So for solopreneurs, your purpose still needs to be articulated. It needs to be clear, because even if you are like myself, a one-woman team or one-man team, getting clear on your common purpose helps you make faster, more aligned decisions. So if someone reaches out to you and they're saying, oh, this is an amazing new opportunity, but if it doesn't help you with your purpose and trajectory of where you're trying to go, you can quickly filter through it and say yes or no without taking up a lot of energy or bandwidth. So you can build it practically by having an explicit conversation with your team about why this works or why it doesn't, not just what you do, but why it counts. Revisit during transitions. Purpose needs to be renewed, not just stated once. It's like a living, breathing thing. Make sure your purpose is specific enough to guide decisions and not just inspire feelings. Common purpose isn't a poster on the wall. Like I said, it's a living conversation, and it's the foundation every other part of this framework is built on.
I always think about the posters on the wall, especially in corporations where they want to have this inspirational quote when you're not really living by it. So I always tell people rewarding your team has nothing to do with the words that are on a poster. I think if you're going to put those affirmations there, you should live by them. Just like if you were to do that for yourself, you write it down I can do this, I am great, or whatever. You live and breathe that. So keep living it that way, not just to put it somewhere, not just to put it there just to say yes. So let's say that you work in an office building and customers come in and they see that. So they assume that you're living by that. But in reality, behind the scenes, that is not the case. It's it's a facade. It's fake.
Absolutely.
The second C is clear expectations. I will say this over and over again, expectations, they need to be clear. This one is responsible for, keeping the people in your space together. Because if you don't have clear expectations, if you have a team, there's going to be friction. The client frustrations when you're working with your clients and there's no expectations, that gets out of hand. And then leadership, you start to feel stressed more than anything else, because unclear expectations are not just creating confusion, it's going to create resentment. People work hard towards something and then find out it wasn't what was needed. That's going to kill the trust. You want to make sure that the people that are in your space, solopreneur, you're working with clients, or if you have a team, you're working with your team, because we talked about this before. If your trust starts to erode, then people are not going to want to work with you. Most expectations are implied and not stated. Leaders often assume people know what good looks like, what the deadline really means, or what level of quality is expected. That assumption is where it breaks down. Clear expectations are specific and mutual. It's not enough to say, I need this done well. What does done look like? By when? What does success actually mean here? When you are giving a deadline, you want to give those specifics. You want to say, I need this done by Friday by 2 p.m. or whatever information that you can provide to be able to lay out those expectations. Clarity is an act of respect. When you give someone clear expectations, you're saying, I trust you enough to tell you exactly what I need. Vagueness is going to put people in a possible situation. They can't succeed if you're being vague. So if Dana and I are trying to plan this podcast and we're yeah, we're just going to record. That's what we're going to do. Okay, what are we going to record? What are we doing here? You have to be specific, and because if you're not, then you're going to show up and you're going to sit there what do I do? I have no idea what I'm doing. You have to. It's there's so many examples out there, because if you're being vague, and then people are going to start asking questions. And if you say, well, I just want it to be done, well, you need to be clear on what needs to be done. This is especially important during change. When things are shifting, people's sense of what's expected often that shifts too. Again, you have to reestablish those expectations at the start of any transition. Practical ways to set clear expectations. Use the what by when and what does success look like framework for every significant task. Check for understanding, not does this make sense? Instead, can you tell me what you're taking away from this? And you can write it down. You want to document everything that's going on, because you and I can have a conversation about the expectations, but maybe a few weeks down the line, and we're trying to do a task, we're trying to do something, and we're like, what was that?
Oh, what was
We're
that one thing you said about this other thing?
yeah. So it's like we get so busy all the time, when we're an entrepreneur, we have, a life outside of that. Like Dana and I are parents, we have kids, and things get hectic all the time. So we're like, okay, we're trying to juggle a lot of things. So when you document something, even just put it in a doc and just like brain dump everything so that you have something there that you can refer back to. So unclear expectations aren't a people problem. They're a leadership problem. And the good news is clarity is always available. You just have to choose it.
Ooh, I like that. You just have to choose it. That honestly leads us very smoothly into the third C, which is communication and alignment. And if you are new here to this podcast, I would invite you to go listen to any other episode. And I promise you that communication is going to be mentioned in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
So it will be in every framework that we discuss and come up with on this podcast, because we have not only touched on this throughout this whole entire series, but and through this entire podcast. Like our very first episode was about communication. So this is where it brings everything together, because communication is not just information sharing. Yes, that is a part of it, but it is alignment building. And those two things, while they may sound similar, they are very different. Information sharing is one way. I can share ample information with Sarah. That doesn't mean I'm going to get anything back. That doesn't mean we're aligned on anything. Eventually, I'm going to get an email or a Slack message saying, "What is this? Why are you sending me this?" Information sharing is a one-way street, a one-way avenue. Alignment is two-way. So, how many of us have sent updates, held meetings, or even posted in Slack, and there's still zero alignment on projects, team goals, personal goals, even that? Alignment means the other person not only received the message, but understands it, agrees with it, and knows what to do because of the information. Alignment breaks down faster than it's built. So, especially during seasons of change or shifting priorities, you can spend weeks building a shared understanding of direction, and one confusing message or avoided conversation can undo it quickly. That's why communication has to be an ongoing, continuous improvement, not just an occasional, when we feel like talking. No, we schedule it.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have structure and flow, structure that allows flexibility. Over communication is underrated. Most leaders think they're communicating more than they are. Most teams feel they're receiving less than they need. So, to bridge that gap intentionally, we want to make sure that we're, seeking that feedback, especially when things are moving fast. Communication style is also going to matter just about as much as the content, because how you say something shapes how it lands. I say this often, mostly to my children. It's not what you said, but how you said it. So a leader who communicates with composure, clarity, and consistency, even when they have to deliver hard news, is going to build more trust than one who only communicates when things are good. A leader, a person worth following, can lift you up when things are good and cheer you on, but they're also there to lift you up when things are hard and you need a little bit extra support. So alignment questions that you should or could consider asking regularly is, does everyone on my team know the current priority and why? Is there anything that's been difficult or left unsaid that's creating friction? Am I communicating often enough? Or am I assuming silence means understanding? It's probably the biggest one. Communication isn't just any old soft skill, it's an operational one. And alignment is what turns a group of people into a long term successful team that can actually move together.
Communication for the win. The fourth C is coaching and collaboration. And this is one of that separates managers from leaders. A manager makes sure the work gets done. A leader makes sure the person doing the work is growing. And that distinction matters a lot when you're building something that needs to last through change. I actually enjoy my management position. I love operations management, all of that. But I still need to bring my leader side to that because I want the people that I work with, the teams I work with, I want them to grow. Although I'm managing behind the scenes, I still ask, like, what do you need to be able to grow within this role? Like, getting their feedback, making sure that they have what they need to be able to actually enjoy their role. And that's with contractors and employees. Like, no matter what type of role that the person is in, you still want to make sure that they're able to grow. You can even ask that to your clients. Like, what can I help you? How can I help you grow within your role as well? Coaching is not correcting. A lot of people hear coaching and think feedback, performance reviews, or problem solving. But coaching in a leadership context is about asking questions to help someone think better, not telling them what to think. The shift from telling to asking, instead of here's what you should do, try what do you think the options are. This is going to help you collaborate and figure out how to get to a solution. So this is going to build ownership and critical thinking and trust. It makes your team more adaptable because they're learning how to solve problems, not just receive solutions. Because as a leader, you can provide all the solutions. People that are in your space, you have to be able to allow them to think for themselves. And that's how somebody is going to grow. Collaborative leadership doesn't mean every decision is made by some committee, that could be like somewhere you probably never met or, you never see. Because if you think of big corporations, people have like boards and all that stuff, but we're not that. We want to make sure that we're small but mighty, right? So we want to make sure that everybody that we work together, you're able to collaborate in a way that makes sense and allows that feedback and growth. It means the people doing the work have a voice in how it gets done. There's a difference between involving people and just telling people what to do. So for those that are just solopreneurs, you can still build a coaching culture with your clients and with the people that you collaborate with, how you ask questions, how you invite input, how you respond to pushback. All of that is coaching posture, and it creates strong relationships and better outcomes. So what gets in the way of the coaching part? Time pressure. Coaching feels slower than directing in the short term. The belief that your way is the only right way. Like, no, that is not the case. And then the fear of losing control if you give people ownership. And this is what I hear a lot of business owners say when it comes to delegation. They're afraid to lose the control because they're in it. They know everything about what's going on. And I get that. But in order for you and the people in your space to grow, there's going to be times when you're going to have to just bite down and just let it go so that you can get the help that you need. I mean, the payoff, that's what you have to look at. You have to look at the future. People that are coached become more independent, more creative, and more resilient. That's exactly the kind of team that thrives when things change fast. The best leaders make themselves less necessary over time, not because they're stepping back, but because they've built people up enough to step forward.
I think the fifth C is probably the one that no one wants to talk about and almost sweep it under the rug sort of thing. But the fifth C is consequences and results. Consequences, though, can be both positive and negative. And regardless, unfortunately, we have to address the discomfort that comes up for a lot of heart led, relationship focused entrepreneurs. When we hear the word consequences, we do naturally think of the negative consequences. And so it immediately makes you go, ooh, let's just not.
Yeah.
Look, I don't like conflict. I don't like, I don't want to fire someone. I don't want to end a partnership or a collaboration or, lose a client, even though that client is making you miserable. We just try to avoid it.
Because consequences they're not, it's not punishment. That they're just what happens next. And without them, accountability doesn't exist, which means expectations become optional and nothing you've built in the first four C's holds. So accountability without consequences is just hope. You can have the clearest expectations in the world, but if there's no follow through, then when they're met or missed, people learn that it doesn't really matter. That's a leadership message, whether you intend it or not. It goes both ways. This isn't just about what happens when something goes wrong. It's about what happens when something goes right. Recognition, celebration, rewarding. And there's some of the most powerful alignment tools you have. Instead of why didn't this get done, try what got in the way and what do we need to change. That reframe moves from blame to problem solving, and it keeps the relationship intact while still holding the standard. When consequences are tied back to the shared purpose, this matters because of what you're trying to build together. Accountability feels meaningful rather than punitive. People aren't just following rules, they're honoring a commitment. And for solopreneurs, you have to hold yourself accountable. Without a team to answer to, self-accountability becomes the whole game. Building personal systems for tracking your results, reflecting honestly on what's working, and following through on your own commitments is a leadership practice, even when the only person watching is you. We have to hold ourselves accountable, because if we do not, then we're just going to probably be in the same spot that we were at the beginning.
So consequences and results aren't the hard part of leadership. They're the honest part, sometimes uncomfortable, but necessary. And when they're built on a foundation of purpose, clarity, communication, and coaching, they will eventually start to not feel so hard or stop being hard at all. They will feel like integrity, and that is a very important piece of leadership that I think we all need right now.
So let's bring this whole framework together. The 5 C's of leadership development: common purpose, that's the shared way that guides every decision; clear expectations, the specific mutual agreements that make success possible; communication and alignment, the ongoing practice of making sure everyone is moving in the same direction; coaching and collaboration, the investment in people that makes your team more capable over time; consequences and results, the follow through that makes everything else real.
These 5 elements work together. You can't skip one and expect the others to hold strong. But when all 5 are present, even imperfectly, you have a leadership foundation that can handle change, sustain long term growth, and bring out the best in the people around you, whether that is your immediate team, your networking community, your clients, subcontractors, collaborators, anything. Adaptability isn't just about reacting well to what changes around you. It's about building something internally in yourself as well as in your leadership style that's strong enough to bend without breaking.
So, this week's challenge, I want you to look at the 5 C's and ask yourself, which one is the weakest link in how I'm leading right now? It's not to judge yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Just get honest, because the one that's the weakest is usually the one that's causing the most friction. So, start there and pick one that you want to work on and just hit the ground running. Just Just work on yourself.
We would very much appreciate if you would share this episode with a leader in your life who's still trying to figure it out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. There's a lot more coming. Until next time, we encourage you to lead with purpose, communicate always with clarity, and keep growing.
As always, all of our information is in our show notes. Until next time.
You can now follow us on LinkedIn at Entrepreneur Encounter.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at UR for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.